afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our August P-Card user group. Today is all about your questions. We have Holly Wallace with us from Illinois ASBO, and we are both here to answer your questions. So please feel free to utilize the chat, come off mute. Happy to talk through whatever you need. But with that, I will pass it off to Holly.
Thanks, Caitlin. Hi, guys. Just reminding you that this is a quarterly meeting that we have for people on the P-Card program. And really, we don't have anything specific planned for this time. It's really just what we call a user group, or a time for you to ask questions of us, probably more specifically me, anything about P-Card and spend dynamics or anything like that. And then you can also, tap into the riches of knowledge of your fellow users that are here on the meeting with us if it's something more specific about wanting to know how other districts are dealing with stuff. So we're really just going to kind of turn it over to you guys. And like Caitlin said, please just come off mute and ask your questions, or put them in the chat if you feel shy. And just while everybody's thinking about that, just a reminder, if you have a new administrator of record in your district, so these are the people that can talk to the bank on the phone, or you want them to talk to the bank on the phone, but that's changed July 1st. If you haven't already updated it with the bank, please update it with the bank and in Spend Dynamics. To change it with the bank, I do need a letter written on district letterhead by a current administrator of record. And that does not mean the administrators at your school. That means the administrators with Spend Dynamics. If you are unsure who your administrator of record is, feel free to reach out to me and I can get that information for you. And then we just need a letter from one of them asking for the edits, whether to remove people or add people, and get that taken care of. And then you want to make sure that you also disable anybody who's in Spend Dynamics who may have left your district as well, so they can't log in, especially those people with administrator logins. Any questions from the floor?
I do.
Hello.
Hi. We just completed our audit, and I wish that BMO, they have a hard line for when they stop purchases and when they go to the statement. I wish they do the same thing for credits, because our withdrawal never matches our statement. And with our audit this last week, I had to explain that to our auditors, and they wanted to see documentation of the credits we were receiving. But then I had to explain to them, well, I don't have those yet because they're going to appear on the next download. And that download doesn't happen, and the employees that have the P-card holders that have the credits can't attach the documents until we do the next month's business.
Okay, Louise, that is impossible. So I've
Okay.
never in 20 years had a district whose withdrawal does not equal their invoice. So
Oh, no, it happens every month because they
okay,
have,
then I think we need to take this offline. And like, I need to see if you could shoot me an email and let me know that. Shoot me an example of what withdrawal did not match your invoice.
well, the statement or the download invoice?
The invoice, because the invoice is the amount the bank is going to withdraw every month.
Okay, no, it happens every month. They take credits afterwards. So
Okay, what kind of credits?
Well, it's for returns. It's usually returns. And
usually that doesn't happen, but it shouldn't be that way. But I would like to get a better understanding of it. I see Melissa is chiming in there too.
okay.
Please let me know, because that's not my understanding of how it should look. There's a hard cut, and that should be the hard cut.
Okay.
So let's just make sure that we're all on the same page about that. And Melissa, if you would send me an email as well, just so I have your information so that I can let you know what Louise and I find out. So if we find out that there's some weird oddity that I have no idea and I've never seen before, and we'll all learn something and maybe learn how we can manage it better.
Okay, I'll send you the information. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Very strange, but I've seen stranger things before, so you never know.
There is a question in the chat, Holly, about what's the best process to get started using Spend Dynamics and Skyward together. This particular user is using SMS.
Okay, so for anyone that's getting ready to use, doesn't use the Skyward extract and they need to get started, first we need to make sure that the Skyward file is actually in your Spend Dynamics. That can take 5 to 10 days to get programmed into Spend Dynamics. So that's always where I say, let's start. And then once you know that's there and you are ready to get started, you need to get a file from me called a card identifier file. And that file is a file that you upload into Spend Dynamics, and that allows the extract that you pull out of Spend Dynamics to match up with the card and transactions that are in Sky. So it makes the marriage happy, but we make it easy for you because there is an upload for you. So there is a, here I'm going to share my screen. On my website, www.illinois-pcard.com, under tutorials, there is a Skyward handbook that will take you step by step through everything you need to do the extract. Again, please remember, before you can do the extract, we need to make sure you have the extract in your Spend Dynamics, and you'll need that card identifier file also. So to see if you have it real quickly, it's also in the instructions. Administration, configuration management, company settings, and then extract settings. And you'll see that bank custom BMO Skyward. That means you have Skyward, which is good. That's what they have to program in there if you don't. If you don't have that, or you don't have any of these steps, just shoot me an email and let me know and get them turned on, and we can request for that Skyward file to be there. So again, it's administration, configuration management, company settings, and then extract settings. And again, that's what you're looking for, that bank custom BMO Skyward. But that's the easiest way to get started. The easiest way to get started is just jump in. There is in Skyward, there is a way for you to put your first extract in there and see if you're getting any errors. If you're getting errors, you can back out and see, get more information about why you're getting it. And then we can also troubleshoot that too. I can't troubleshoot too much on Skyward, but usually it's just a couple things that we can change and it all works. So go slow, don't save anything to Skyward. It's hard to get stuff out of Skyward once you hard save it, but if you don't go all the way, then we can get it to work usually eventually. Anything else? Anybody need to see anything on Spend Dynamics? How to do anything on Spend Dynamics?
Holly, I know I've had a couple of questions lately about ghost cards or department cards, where people can check them out and that kind of thing. Can you kind of talk through best practice for those cards, like having one person that's responsible for collecting receipts and how that might work in Spend Dynamics?
Sure. So a ghost card and a department card can be the same thing or can be a different thing. So you can have card in an individual's name or a department game. A ghost card is just a charge count with all the numbers that are attached to it, expiry date, that does not include a physical piece of plastic. So some people use this for subscriptions, recurring payments, where they don't need a physical piece of plastic to make a transaction. Sometimes purchasing offices have them. You can get a ghost card in somebody's name or a department card. So it's either or. So any kind of policies or procedures you'd have around a ghost card should be the same as with your individual cards or your department cards. Now, remember, you're not required to have individual cards in people's hands if you don't want to. I have some districts, and I have over almost 1,600 districts now, that keep all their card locked up, whether it's in an individual's name or department name, and they don't give that card out until there are approvals that have been met. You can have a hybrid if you want to too. So some of the best practices I have for department cards, especially those that are being shared with a number of people, is of course to keep them locked up. And you have one central person. And that one central person should be the person who is responsible for making sure that there is receipt for every transaction that occurs on that department card during a billing period. So my best practice for that, and the one that I have found that works best, is you have a manila envelope. You have that card inside the manila envelope, and that card is required to be locked up. You have a sign-out sheet, and on that sign-out sheet, you want to have the date the card was taken, the name of the person who took it, and you also want to say, where are they taking the card? So why you want that is because at the statement period, when you open up the statement and you got 5 Amazon charges, you want to know who had it on what date if they didn't return everything to you, invoice, or you have questions because it might be different than what the charge was, that kind of thing. So once you then give the card out to someone, you want to make sure that in your office you have policy around that. What kind of approvals does that person who has the card locked up need to have before they can give the card out? For some people, it could be verbal. For some people, it could be a list of people that can have it. For some people, it might need a formal PO that is either electronic or a PO that's in Skyward or a PO that's physical in a piece of paper. Either way, have policy around it. Once that is met and the card is given out to a person, when they return that card, then the hand should be out for the card and for the receipt. If there is no receipt, when the card is returned in that manila envelope, you should have a missing receipt form. So even if they said, oh, I left that receipt at home, I'll bring it in tomorrow, still have them fill out the missing receipt form. You can always tear it up. Either way, it's a great placeholder to go and contact that person again, or maybe make a note on it so that the person collecting receipts can go and get that receipt later. So a missing receipt form can be super simple. Date, name of the person, the vendor they went to, the amount of the charge, why they went to the charge, and why they're missing a receipt. Missing receipts in this day and age really can be chalked up a lot to either they're trying to be dishonest or they're lazy. Most places can reissue receipt again after, if you've lost it. You know, if they can't, then you have them fill out a missing receipt form. I mean, sometimes you just can't get a replacement, but this is also a way of tracking. So if you have somebody that you notice has a lot of missing receipts, that might be something you want to flag and have a conversation with them, or you may even want to take away their P-card privileges. This is something that auditors look for. Most good auditors will ask for a sample of your P-card statements and receipts. Having the missing receipt form in there is at least nice for the auditors because they see that you follow up and you're making sure that there's paperwork on each one, but you certainly don't want to have a lot of missing receipts. And this is a good way to follow up on those and keep track of them. Okay, so hi, Emily. You want to know how to remove users in Spend Dynamics. So there are places in Spend Dynamics that you can edit and keep a list. Those are where your cards are and your card users. And then there's a place in administration overview employees that you cannot get rid of those people. So they hold history and they will always be there. You can't delete them or get rid of them. But what you do want to make sure is that they don't have access to Spend Dynamics. And I will show you what I mean. So if you're in Spend Dynamics, and I'll start here at home for everybody. And if you're in administration overview, employees. And remember, when the search box comes up down here at the bottom, return results, always make sure you, let me move my bar here, always make sure you change that to all, or you're not going to get everybody. You'll just get your top 20. And I'm not really sure how they decide who the top 20 are. So in this list, I can see anyone who's ever had a profile in Spend Dynamics from Illinois ASBO. And what you do want to be aware of is just this middle aisle right here that says access level. They are no longer employees. They should not have access, and it should say no access on them. That means they are unable to log into the system. You should not just be locking their account. Locking their account and not taking away their access can still allow them to get into the system. So make sure that you are taking away their access, and remember to do that. It's the same exact procedure, and I got to make sure that I don't do it to myself because I have before. Same exact procedure that you start with to give them access. You just start with that head. You're going to have to put in your admin password. Just skip what it says for the username and just hit delete. And when you hit delete, it doesn't delete them or delete the profile. It just deletes their access to Spend Dynamics. Oh. So Lori wants to know, she's not a current user. Do we work with Alio? We can work with any software. I just need to know what the software needs to be able to make an extract work. I will say that, you know, the majority of Washington State and Wisconsin are Skyward users, but that is really a very small portion of my overall school districts. Most school districts don't use Skyward. So it works with any finance system that can take any kind of upload, whether that's a CSV, an Excel, a text, any kind of file, and we can customize something for you, or you can use something that's already in here. I would just need to work with the vendor, or we can work with the vendor to see what they would need. It's pretty easy most of the time, if they have a good credit card module. Eddie wants to know, we're starting at square one. Do we open a card account with BMO, or do we set things up? You have to fill out the application to get started with BMO. And then when you're having your Spend Dynamics built for you, which is what they do while you're going through the application process, make sure you let your implementation manager know that you are a Skyward user, and they will pre-program that Skyward file in. Most of the times they ask, especially if you're in Wisconsin, but it's not automatic. So make sure that they're putting it in there for you. And like I said, even after you've started and been on the program for a while and you switch to Skyward, we can always get it in there for you. It just takes a little bit to program because it is a programming issue. It's not just a button that gets turned on like most things. And then once you get going and you have some card, then you can start Skyward. The Skyward part is fairly easy. Once you have the file turned on here, you just have to have things set up in Skyward. And like I said, most of that is done with that card identifier file that you asked for. But if you don't have any card, then there's no card identifier file information to get from me. So start with the application, start with your getting your card set up. And then when you have your first spend, then we can get you going on Skyward. Anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, there's one in the chat that one of our districts has some cards that are no longer being used because they were lost or stolen. Is there a way to get them out of your list in Spend Dynamics?
Well, cards that are lost or stolen should be under administration and account management. And when I go through the big blue search button, you can search if you want to, but all your open card are right here. And if you look at the 5th column over called account name, and if you see that little gray circle, you can actually sort them if you want to, alphabetically. If you see that card here that is lost or stolen, you should close it. And to close that, you should hit that I, and you just clear it here. I always suggest first, though, to go down to the credit limit, make sure that it doesn't have a credit limit on it if you've already turned that credit limit off, maybe. So the first thing you need to do is edit that credit limit. So just click on the pencil, change it to 0. Do not add any details or supplementary information in the lower box. That does flag it for human intervention and can take up to 3 days to action. So if you just put nothing except for change the credit limit to 0 and hit submit, it's in real time. And then once you have edited the credit limit, just go up here to where the second pencil where it says open, and then there's a little pull down here and you can either do lost or stolen or closed. And then again, no details here in this second box, and hit submit, and that's real time. It does sometimes take a day or two for it to sometimes flow off. Sometimes it's right away. Sometimes it takes a couple days for it to disappear, but it should go and be gone from this. This is the one list that as a business manager, you should be super familiar with. These are your open active card. And so you should be, especially at the beginning of the school year, aware of all of these, especially this 5th column. Who you should know every single person on here and feel comfortable with every single one of them having the credit limit that you've set for them. And that credit limit is right there. Sometimes you can have more than one page. Just make sure that you're looking at them and that you're familiar with them and that you know all of them. And again, if you don't, then it's, you need to do some editing or some calling around to say, hey, who did this card? If you know the administrators, then it should be a pretty easy thing to determine. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Lori, for being here. Anything else? Remember, everybody, that if a card is declining, the first thing I'm going to ask you, if you contact me, and you should contact me because I can usually get it cleared up fastest for you. First thing I'm going to ask you is, what is Spend Dynamics saying? So in that case, remember, search for the card, and usually I'll show you the fast way to do that. Go to account management, because this is about card, not about people. You can search for the specific card by the last 4 numbers or by the name on the card. Again, let's see, so I pull one up. And when I hit search, I just get that one card. So I click the number under open. And if there are declines, it would be here under the second symbol. That's where non-posted transactions are. And you can see that there are some non-posted transactions on this card. Really, you don't need to worry too much about non-posted transactions because they are just that. They are not posted and you are not financially responsible for them. But if you happen to be on here and you notice some, and you know it's your card, and that person would never order anything from there, you might want to check in with that person to see whether there's fraud on their card. These are places where declines happen as well. And if there was a decline, it would have a red ball by it. So when I ask you what is Spend Dynamics saying, I would ask you to come into this non-posted transactions and look for a transaction that has a red ball, because everything above that is declining because of that red ball, and tell me what that red ball says, and then we can deal with it. Usually 99.999%, no, I'm going to say 100% of the time. I've never not been able to deal with it and get it cleared off. And the bank cannot get these cleared off. These are all vendor generated. Most vendors have software that go in and sweep these things out. Sometimes they sit there for a really, really long time, and sometimes they disappear really quick. This is also where you'd see things like if a hotel, you go to a hotel and they're asking for money for incidentals. This is where that deposit happens, and then it disappears if it's not used. It doesn't actually go on the card. So in that sense, or if you're renting a car, that's where that deposit would go to. Just remember that those things like deposits in non-posted transactions do affect the available credit. Usually that's not too much of a problem unless one card has got a bunch of hotel rooms on it and a bunch of incidentals. Again, remember, best practice, if you have somebody with 1 or 2 cards and they are going and got a lot of rooms on their hotel, call the hotel and have a account set up that is just one charge for all rooms. A lot easier, because once that card starts getting hit for 3 or 4 rooms at the exact same time, exact same vendor, exact same amount, usually the algorithms will just shut the card down because they think that some sort of, not fraud happening, but there's just some kind of charge going on, and they want to stop it. If you call the hotel, I have not worked with a hotel before that cannot set up a billing account for you that just has everything overall on it. Oh. A renewed card, and it's taking a long time to activate online, and it says to call. So Nikki, next time that happens, will you send me the name on the card and last 4 digits? And if you can, a screenshot of the screen that says you have to call. I'd like to see what's going on too. I have not heard anybody have that complaint before. I know if you have a brand new card, not a renewing card, but a brand new card, you do have to call on brand new cards the first time you activate them. But renewal cards, I'm told you do not have to. It may be that it's looking at your IP address and it doesn't recognize it. I had an issue once with a district that had a firewall that was prohibiting it from looking at the IP addresses and being able to confirm that that IP address was one that could be trusted for renewing cards. So if you have it happen next time, like I said, name on card, last 4 digits, and a screenshot of that screen if you can. If you can, it's not a huge deal, it's a screenshot. And then let's see if we can troubleshoot it for you. Here, a bit more. So I don't have a lot of districts that use ghost cards. I will be very honest with you. I will say almost all of my districts use some sort of plastic. I think that most districts find that the ghost card is kind of limiting. It really, like I said, it is a card. There's just no physical plastic attached to it. And that means you have to keep that number written down, whether it's in an Excel sheet or whether it's, you know, written down, which is very non-security. So if somebody had a ghost card and they had that number, I would really suggest that they had it in a locked Excel sheet so that it couldn't be accessed by anyone. That might, if there was, you know, any kind of malware or virus on their computer that was able to open Excel sheets, which is kind of common. That's why we usually just ask for last 4 and digits on name. And, you know, with that other 3 numbers and the expiry date, that usually makes it somewhat secure. But, you know, where there's money to steal, hackers are out there looking for it. And there's a lot of viruses that can get into computers that can read Excel sheets. So I really suggest having plastic card. Absolutely, if you want a ghost card, we can do it. We also have virtual cards that you can use too. The virtual cards, unfortunately, are all tied to cell phones though. So somebody would have to have a district cell phone to be able to use the virtual option. A virtual option is just a card number that is generated for a certain time and then it disappears. But the fact that all of our card on our program is free, if you have someone who has to do some charging for a short term, I just say order them a card and then when they're done, just close it. I just think it's easier and cleaner. But if you want to order or more information about ghost card, let me know. You have to go through the bank to order ghost card, because you can't do it online. Just so everybody knows, the bank has gone to the system. You have to order all card online. On my P-Card website, you will find tutorials for how to do almost everything in Spend Dynamics. And while I love my friends at BMO very much, I find that some of their tutorials are like really long and complicated to do something simple. So I created some really simple ones, most of the things that school districts use, including how do you order a card for an individual? How do I order a card for a department card? And then you do that right on this same page under administration and account management. It is right here in the corner, create new card BMO. Just make sure that when you get, I think it's the second or third page in, that asks you about statement, that you don't allow it to send paper statement, because it is a $3 per statement charge. So make sure that you're choosing the virtual. I've seen some people that default to the virtual and some people that default to the paper. So just make sure you're looking at it. If you have a question, back out of the application and let me know, but it is also in the instructions too. Can you see all transaction under? Yeah, you can see anything you want, Melissa, as long as you're an administrator on the account. So there's a number of ways. I'll just show you the easiest way. This is a report that I use for a lot of things on Spend Dynamics. So it's reports, expenditure analysis, and transaction search company. And let's say that I wanted to look for Carla Paschal, and I know she has a P card. I know she does a lot of charging at our office. And so if I wanted to look for transactions for her, I would have to start by either the last 4 digits or her last name. That is going to give me just her information. If you wanted to see all transactions, you could just leave this blank and it would bring back all transactions from the time period that you choose. And so then when I'm tightening up my search, I can either look by statement period if I want to, or I can blank that out and I can put a start date and end date if I want to. Okay, that's the easiest way. Make sure that you're always using posting date, not transaction date, because transaction date isn't the true time of when it might hit your statement and be due. So always make sure you're using posted date. And then you want to make sure that when you get down to the bottom down here, that you're picking transaction list. So let's say that
Hey,
I wanted,
Holly,
yeah,
I don't think your screen share is working quite right. I think if it's like a
it's,
pop out or something, it doesn't
it is.
show anything
Okay,
for
let me
us.
try this again. Zoom does this to me every now and then. Okay, I got to start over again. Just a second. Okay, can you see it now? Okay, so this is what comes up. Sorry about that. I always forget about that with Zoom. So again, I'm looking for Carla Paschal. I just put in her last name. You can put in her last 4 digits as well. This is going to bring up just her transactions. Again, if you wanted to see all transactions from this time period, you would just leave the name and the account numbers blank. Again, you can look by statement period if you want to, or you can actually put in a date range. So I just have some saved dates in here. I'll just put those in. If I wanted to look from that date range, the only thing I would do is this will be defaulted to summary account. I always move this down to transaction list because it's going to list everything out. The summary is just going to give me just one line of how many transactions there were at that time. So, sorry, you guys got to keep moving this bar. When I hit search, then what I get is a list of all of the transactions. I see posting date, I see vendor, I see amount. And then if I needed to, down here at the bottom, I can export it to Excel. So if you're doing everybody, you can group them differently. There's a lot of different ways to slice and dice this reports thing. So if you have questions or you need something more specifically, feel free to reach out to me. But that's really the best one. I like this report. Again, it is, let me just go back. Administration, oops, sorry, reports, expenditure analysis, transaction search company. Okay, hope that answered your questions. Is there somewhere to see what kind of statement everyone's card has? I want to make sure we don't have any paper statements going out. Ooh, asking me a hard one. You know what? Why don't you shoot me an email and I'll have the bank look it up because they would know where to look. And I'm not really sure where to look for whether it says in here whether you get a paper statement or not. So shoot me an email and ask the question, and I will ask my team at the bank if you have any paper statements. And then I can let you know who does, and then you can decide if you want them turned off or not. You would actually probably have a really good idea that you did because you'd see a fee on your statement every month for $3 a statement. Now, with that being said, I will say that I do have 1 or 2 school districts who have been on the program for a long time that have some cards that kind of sneak through that process. But in theory, you should be charged. All right. Anything else?
I don't see any new questions. While we wait, just a quick reminder of our upcoming dates. Our next P-Card user group will be November 19th at noon. And then the following will be February 18th at noon, since we are going quarterly. Any other questions before we wrap it up for the day?
And remember, you guys, you don't have to wait. You can always reach out to Caitlin and she can give you my information. My information's on their website. It's also on the P-Card website, www.illinois-pcard.com. And you can always reach out to me, hwallace@iasbo.org. And feel free to reach out to me with any questions. Remember, I have a dedicated team at BMO who works for all of us. And I usually can get an answer a lot faster. I certainly will send you to the 1-800 number if I think that they can do a better and faster job for you. But usually my team can get it done faster and better. Also remember, if you're using iasbo.requests at bmo.com, there is a, hi Janelle. Janelle's my big helper. There is a 72-hour wait list, so they don't even have to open the email for 72 hours. So if you have something that's timely, please do not send it to iasbo.requests@bmo. I'm trying to think of anything else. I think that's it at the top of my head.
Awesome.
Remember
Well,
if you have new staff and you need training on Spend Dynamics, you can set up one-on-one training with me. We can do an overview on Zoom just like this. Sorry, Caitlin, I was going to say that, I forgot.
Nope, that was a great one. In the meantime, if anybody has questions, you just have a quick thing that you're hoping to figure out, please don't hesitate to reach out to myself and/or Holly. Always happy to help. Otherwise, start your list, bring your stuff that you think would be helpful for everybody to our next user group in November. I'm hoping to have this recording out by end of day tomorrow to all of you, as well as those that, registered but maybe couldn't join us. We know this is a busy time, so we appreciate you taking a little time out of your first day of school prep to join us today.
Happy first day of school. Geez, I'm surprised we have this many. So thank you so much for everybody who came. And like I said, feel free to reach out with anything you might need.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Bye, Wisconsin. Have a good first day of school.